Hi there, it's me, Brianna, and you are listening to Are We Caught Up Yet? Marvel Edition. You can find us on youtube.com/SaveTheGameMedia and podcast services under Are We Caught Up Yet? If you want to show Save the Game Media some extra love and get early access to all of our content, you can find us at patreon.com/SaveTheGameMedia. Today, I am joined by my co-host and friend, Sam. Before we get started for today's review, how are you today, and have you been watching anything?
I am good.
Okay.
I don't think I've been watching anything.
Not even Severance?
I'm trailing behind, unfortunately. Which I will have to rectify.
So you didn't see that when that one person died? Just kidding.
Yeah, I don't think there is anything.
That's sad.
Sorry.
It's okay. Severance, all you need to know is more questions, never answers.
I feel like I've got the whole thing sussed, so I'll see.
Okay. Well, maybe I'll have you tell me your theory because I have nothing.
Oh dear.
At this point, I just don't even know if I care. Like, I do care about the show, like what happens and like what the answers are, but I think mostly my brain is just stuck on the goats.
Mm.
You know, just like what the hell's going on with these goats?
I think I know.
Okay. What was I going to tell you? Oh, I was going to tell you. I played Wanderstop demo yesterday.
Ah.
It was very interesting so far. It looks like the gameplay loop will be really fun. And I can't wait to play the full game. We got a couple games coming out this week. I think Split Fiction is coming out this week, and Wanderstop is coming out this week. I think there's one other game that I can't think of. But busy time because we got Monster Hunter too.
You have.
Well, you should also have it, but yeah. You'd have such a good time.
Nope.
Okay, if you say so. He just doesn't know how to read, guys. That's what the real problem is. He said, "Oh my God, there's so many menus. I can't read." He's going to give himself whiplash is what's going to happen here in a second. He gets stuck in these, you know, sometimes he just loops like this. Luna, how are you? She's using my hand. You can't see. Hold on. Let me tilt this down. There you go. She's using my hand as like a rest. So I can't really move off of my keyboard, off of my mouse. So this is how I live now. Are you dizzy yet, or?
No, I just got bored of doing it. You know.
Oh, okay. You know, if you've seen that bird that like does that like thing with its head, that's what you looked like.
I can't say that I have.
Okay.
I'll believe you though.
Okay. Well, you know what I did watch though, Sam? X-Men: The Last Stand. Oh my god. Who would have general thoughts to start, of course. It was kind of meh. Wasn't the worst thing I've ever seen, but it was also just like, okay, yeah, that was something I watched, and now we're done watching it, which was such a bummer. Like as like the third movie, I guess you can't always like stay the same or get better, but like still, it's kind of like, bleh.
Mm.
What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, most people pretty much universally dogpile it and call it trash. I don't know that I agree that it's trash, but I think it tries to do a decent amount and doesn't necessarily succeed at any of them. And it makes a few creative choices that, even though I can understand the reasoning behind them, I feel don't serve the film all that well.
Yeah.
So it's got some good stuff, but introduces some more really cool X-Men. But outside of that, I would prefer to watch either of the other two X-Men films. So yeah, bummer.
Mm-hmm. Real bummer.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it sounds like this will be hopefully a fairly quick episode then, since we don't have much to say about this. I will kick us off with soundtrack being very bland once again. I don't know why, but it feels to me like these movies could have used like a licensed track or two. You know? Just like one thing or two things to just spice it up a little bit.
Yeah, that wasn't really like the done thing at this point, though.
Yeah, I figure.
Which is a shame. I will say, I can't remember if we said whether we're watching any of them. I don't think we are, but the a lot of the newer X-Men films do lean more into that. Not like full of licensed stuff, but have a few needle drops to give scenes a bit of oomph. But this one is pretty much just wholly original score, and that's underwhelming.
Okay. Well,
Yeah,
what can you do?
absolutely nothing.
I would confidently say that this movie does not pass the Bechdel test. Don't think that. Yeah, just don't think that happens, which is crazy. And all right. Okay, a couple things. One, okay, so Cyclops, obviously we're getting into spoilers. Dies, question mark. I was very confused when he died, and it felt like one of those moments where he would come back, but then he just like didn't. But it was also just like what a waste of a character, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, as was indicated by the end of the last film, and technically the end of this film as well, they're just playing very fast and loose, which I know most of these films do anyway, with who's alive and who's dead. But like contextually coming off of the end of the last film where Jean was dead and now she's not, and then spoilers, Charles dies and then he's not. It's like, well, death doesn't mean anything then, because like all of the main people that have died have come back now, or are teased to come back. So it's like, Again, it's one of the creative decisions. It's like I understand for the story they're telling in terms of like the love triangle and having Jean become the Phoenix and be this a sort of unstoppable destructive force. It's like, okay, you sort of need a bit of strife there, and then Charles dying and you need Wolverine to take her out, but it just feels like a weird choice, even though you can explain the rationale behind it. So
yeah, I mean, I feel like maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong, but it feels like they could have done like something a little bit more to like make it more like believable. I don't know. It felt like even the characters didn't believe that that they were dead.
yeah,
I don't know.
it goes to show that these films have just like chronically mistreated and mishandled Cyclops as the character. Like in a jokey way, you have James Marsden playing him, so it's like, why would you waste that? But also, like, canonically, Cyclops is like the leader of the X-Men team more often than not, and it's like that is just not the case here at all. He's just sort of like designated the cuck, and it's like, well, okay, are you going to have him do anything interesting? It's like, no, he's just sort of going to mope and complain and crack a few jokes and then
die.
Yeah. So, rip.
Yeah, it also was weird to me that they killed Charles as well.
Yeah. I mean, again, like, I understand if it's like the culmination of a trilogy, you're trying to ramp up stakes, you're trying to show just how powerful Jean is as the Phoenix. It's like, okay, yeah, take out someone who's super powerful like Charles. But not only do they sort of immediately retcon it by the end of the film by suggesting that Charles is in fact still alive somehow, despite getting like evaporated, but also the manner in which he was killed, and like it's intentional, but like I don't agree with it. They make it more, it comes across more that Charles, if he wanted to, could have actually resisted it, and Charles almost just sort of like gives up. Gives up is the wrong way of phrasing it, but just sort of like allows himself, like that's the vibe I've always gotten. Like he was fighting and he's sort of like struggling, but then it's a very calm death, which is what Charles is like. But it reads wrong to me. It's like if you were if you're using it to escalate stakes, I would have preferred it for Jean to just sort of like wave her hand, and I know that's technically what she did, but like wave her hand and just have Charles just like, explode like properly, rather than just sort of unceremoniously disappear. It feels very anticlimactic. In the same way like Cyclops' death, right? It's sort of like, but that was it. What? Wait, what just happened? Why did that just happen? It's very confusing. Very confusing.
Yeah, the other thing that I think annoys me about his death is that like this trilogy has in a lot of ways been about like Charles versus Eric. And by like removing Charles from the equation completely, like it kind of ruins that at like the last moment.
Yeah. I mean, like, because to its credit or defense or whatever, like there are plenty of storylines where either Charles is completely removed for either dead or, incapacitated or whatever, or Magneto is, and what happens there? How do things play out between, the Brotherhood and the X-Men? What happens there? Who wins out? How do their ethoses and morals and actions play out? And that is something that, like, not that we're going to necessarily be watching it, I don't think, at any point, but X-Men 97, which is the continuation of the 90s animated series, that tackles that a lot, where Charles is, like, gone for a sizable chunk of it, and Magneto is by de facto kind of like leading the X-Men and the conflict that causes. So if the film was willing to do that, or this wasn't specifically the conclusion of the trilogy and there was more road after this for exploring what happens when Charles is gone, sure. But knowing that this is the end of the road, it's like, well, again, it just feels very vapid. It's like, you did it. I can read the script, you know, the structure, the narrative structure that you laid out, and I can just completely understand why you did it. It's very transparent that there isn't really any deeper thing going on. It's just like, we needed to show that Jean's super powerful, so who she's going to kill. Wolverine's too popular. Nobody really cares about Cyclops. Wouldn't make sense for her to kill Magneto or Storm. So it's like, well, I guess it's going to be Charles. It's like, well, that's such a bad way to come to that conclusion. Like, you have no justification or reasoning for it. It's just,
They do, and it's very, very thin.
yeah. So
They're like, oh, he locked her other half away. Her other personality hates him now.
which is technically what's going on. Like, the Phoenix is just like this, like, dormant thing inside of Jean that awakens on a whim sometimes, or is triggered out. But again, I just don't think the film handles it well enough. Like, it's what I said at the start. The film is trying to do a fair amount of things and pulling on plot points and character arcs from all over the X-Men comics, and it's presenting a lot of interesting things, but trying to compress it all into the conclusion of the trilogy. When for some of this stuff, there really hasn't been any meaningful groundwork laid. It just feels very rushed.
It does.
It just underserves everything it is trying to depict. So,
yep.
Yeah.
Speaking of throwing characters away, I also feel like they could have done better with Mystique's storyline there. I didn't enjoy, like, the fact that, like, because she was no longer a mutant, she immediately gets thrown away. I thought that was very interesting. But they followed none of that through. They didn't follow it through because, like, the other mutants were there watching, and so, like there's of course the thought of, like, oh, is he gonna throw me away too? Nothing to address that. She, like, goes to the government and is like, here's his hideout, but, like, you only see that for, like, a very brief second. And, like, you know, like, it ends up being basically for nothing. Like, I don't know. Like, a lot of that stuff is, like, very, very skimmed over. And feels like a waste of the character.
Yeah, I won't repeat myself. It's just sort of like, you know, the conflict in ideology of, you know, Eric believing that mutants are superior and therefore humans are inferior. So therefore, when Mystique loses her powers, she immediately becomes one of the other guys, you know, one of the lesser people. So there is no loyalty, despite the amount of things that Mystique has done for him and how loyal she's been. That's a really interesting prospect. But again, does Mystique really factor into the plot or story after that point?
Nope.
Not really at all. So yeah. And it's a bummer because Mystique is like a really dope character. As we've seen in the previous films, and even just a little bit in this one. It's She presents a lot of very interesting questions, but the film doesn't seem to be interested in pursuing any of them.
Yep. Yep. Man, it feels like this whole film is just like they give you like a thread and then they don't follow it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's keep chugging along here. We have the storyline between like Rogue, Kitty, and Iceman. And I actually thought that was, I don't think like the best conclusion out of all of the little story threads, but at least it was like resolved, where it was like, Rogue was like, I wanted the cure like for myself,
Mm.
and actually followed through with that, which I was actually really surprised that she did follow through with that. It felt like it was one of those moments where she would like show up and be like, at the last minute, save everybody kind of thing.
Yeah.
But she didn't.
Do something with these things you're setting up. Anything, please. I beg you. I'm still waiting.
Mm-hmm.
The movie's over. Yeah. I mean, and like speaking of Kitty and, like I like all these characters being introduced. They're very big, sort of, meaningful characters to the team. Elliot Page, but again, it's like you're showing us a lot of theoretically good stuff, but we're at the end of the runway and we're not taking off. We're coming to a stop. So like, it's just they didn't balk it because it's not a bad film. It's just sort of like
There's like too much going on with too little information,
Yeah, I mean, they had two what I would consider very well-paced films, doing a lot of groundwork, and then they were like, okay, so we're ending with a trilogy, and then they realized, oh God, there's all of these really cool, interesting things that we haven't put into the films yet. Chuck them all in. Go, 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 go. Like, I know it's like relatively minor, but like Trask is in here as a character. And Trask is like one of the biggest X-Men villains. Like he's the guy that made the Sentinels. And it's like, why would you introduce, if it's not specifically Bolivar Trask, why would you introduce a Trask here? That I'm going into my comic Duffy here, but like Trask is a big player in the newer X-Men films because of the Sentinels. Like the
Can I be
Sentinels
honest with you? It does in the credits say that it is Boulevard Trask.
Okay.
I don't know if that makes it worse or better.
That does make it worse because then there's like, well, you're specifically including Bolivar Trask for no reason. Like he's there and he's helping the president, but like it's so dumb. It's so dumb. Like you're bringing in I'm getting annoyed. I'm getting annoyed. Beast?
Yep. Felt like a really weird way to introduce that character because I knew who that character was.
Where has he been? Where has he been?
Yeah.
Beast is one of the biggest X-Men around. Why is he only in this film?
Mm-hmm.
Kelsey Grammer, no less. Like I know some people have problems with him, but like he's so good as Beast. Like he just brings that like weird sort of very intellectual gravitas in a different way to Charles. Like he's like a sophisticated dude, a blue dude. It's like I'm very sad.
Totally
Brittany,
different
can you
from the
tell?
green dude.
Yeah. And the silver dude.
Yeah, totally different.
And then you've got Vinnie Jones as the Juggernaut.
Mm-hmm. They did
Sorry,
nothing with that character.
What? And why would you cast Vinnie Jones? I'm the Juggernaut, bitch.
I mean, he looked good as the character.
I mean, sure, but that's just because he's muscular, right? Like, and I think that's probably one of the only reasons he was cast, to be honest. And he's bold. Not that really mattered all that much, but still, it's. It just seems like, and you've got Angel as well.
They really did nothing with that character.
Yeah.
Which I was like really excited when they were like introducing him, because like, what an origin story.
Mm-hmm.
And then they said, just throw him off to the side.
Yeah.
No, not needed.
We don't really need to have him or use him in any important, meaningful way. It's just
or the guy that's like the guy that has like the cure power, right? They didn't end up doing anything because like Kitty goes, "Oh, I can't use my powers around you," like, and then they're like, they face the Juggernaut for 3 seconds, and then they like never do anything with that. Like, that could have been such an interesting element in the fight of like, whoever is near him can't use their powers. So how do we pick who is standing with him?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Like Leech. That's the character you're speaking of, Leech. Like, again, not super important character, but like a super iconic character that a lot of people love. Well, especially now. I don't know how big he was back then, to be fair. But like, again, that's sort of the vibe you're getting, where it's like, well, we've had this core group of X-Men, which is how it is, right? You have the core team, which is fine. Missing people like Beast for the past few films and Angel, Kitty as well. But like, you got to the end and the films have only gotten more popular. X2 was significantly bigger than X1. And you set this film up to be the conclusion. And yet now you're filling out the roster. And not only are you filling out the roster, you're casting, for the most part, great people in the roles, introducing them in interesting ways, but then not only not allowing them to expand in future films because this is the end of the trilogy, but you're also not even utilizing them well once you've introduced them in this film. This film makes me very frustrated.
I can tell.
Because after X2, I thought it was like, you needed a little bit of tweaking to land the plane, but it was like an open goal. I thought, like, don't get over your skis, don't go too big. You can introduce like Beast, get Beast in there, sure, and you can have Kitty, I would say, because they're pretty important. And depending on what story you wanted to tell, maybe you do bring in a few of the extraneous ones. But like, you've had the two films about this team, so just keep it about this team. And it is mostly about this team, but you've got so many distractions on the outside that you're trying to cram into the runtime. Where again, it's like it underserves everything as a result. Like, nothing feels well done. It's just a film, which is like, that's not good enough.
Man, looks like there's a lot of cool characters too.
Yeah, I mean, if you know X-Men characters, the amount of cameos in this is insane. Like, I'm pretty sure Jubilee is like somewhere in here. Jubilee is like fan favorites X-Men character, not like a massive member of the team traditionally, but again, X-Men 97, she is a core cast member. was a big part of the original animated series as well.
Oh yeah, they do. She is cast. It has it listed.
Which is like, again, it's cool, I guess, that you're like cameoing all of these characters and being like, oh, they exist. Yeah, cool. We're acknowledging them. Yeah, that's cool. Would have appreciated you doing literally anything with them.
Mm-hmm.
And that
You know who
was
did show up though?
gone.
Stan Lee.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
He did show up. I was excited.
What a guy.
Mm-hmm. What a guy. Yeah, the reason it took me a second to find it, but it's because her full name is Jubilation. So, Jubilation Lee.
Sure, but I mean, the character name is Jubilee.
Yeah, I believe you. I was just
You should, because I'm right.
So who would you consider the core characters, like the core X-Men?
I would say, well, it depends on who you ask. I know you're asking me, but I'm just saying,
I'm
like,
asking
generally
you.
speaking, the core team should almost always feature Cyclops, Storm, Jean, Rogue, most of the time Wolverine, Beast, since the 90s, Bishop has been pretty central, I think. Morph and I would say Jubilee as well. But it's either, it's like, for the remainder, it's either between, could be all of them, but you either would have Jubilee, Sunspot, Iceman for sure. And I'm forgetting someone. Who am I forgetting? Oh, Gambit.
There's a bunch of characters here listed that you did not mention. Not that I'm saying you're wrong. I'm saying that there's a lot of X-Men.
Like,
So I Googled core members just to see what Google said.
oh, Kitty as well, I would say.
Angel, Mimic, Petra, Vulcan,
No.
Banshee, Colossus.
Colossus, yeah, fair. That's fair.
Thunderbird. Nightcrawler, Sway, Polaris.
Oh yeah, sorry, yeah, Nightcrawler definitely. Yeah, I blanked on that one.
Sorry, and then Polaris, and then Havoc, Darwin, and Sunfire.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd call any of them core. Like, they're big X-Men characters, but like, if you are talking fundamentals, almost like have to be on the team, I think it's traditionally most of the ones I said, with a little bit of interchangeability.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that Jean is just Jean. Everybody else has, like, not craziest of names, but like crazy names. She's just Jean.
Yeah. Well, I mean, she's also the Phoenix technically, but like.
So who would you say is your favorite, like, character in the X-Men that you feel like, man, I really wish that they would, like, seriously follow this character in, like, a movie or something?
That's a good question. I'd say just generally speaking, the one that hasn't really got any of its dues is Cyclops. I just think that outside of X-Men 97, Cyclops has been pretty horrifically underserved, misrepresented, not portrayed correctly. And that's not to like poo-poo on James Marsden. It's just that like the material he was given wasn't indicative of what Cyclops should be. And the same goes for the newer X-Men films as well. I think like Storm as well could have like her own thing if you're talking specifically about like a solo film. But I am of the belief that Storm is like super powerful, one of the most powerful X-Men there is. But and this is a generally quite commonly held idea, she should 1000% be introduced as a love interest in a Black Panther film. Or not necessarily like just a love interest, but like as a character who presents at some point in the narrative a sort of romantic dilemma or outright relationship for Black Panther, which obviously is now more difficult because of Chadwick dying. I actually think that not that the plan was, but that the rumor was that Black Panther 2 initially, prior to Chadwick's passing, was going to have Storm. But obviously they had to change course. But I'm still holding out hope, because I think that would be so dope. Because like she is an African character, like Aurora Monroe is an African like queen, so it would only make sense to cross paths with the Wakandans. I think that would be really sick. You know, in like Black Panther 3 or something, if they have a male Black Panther again alongside Shuri, like, you know, the storm clouds roll in over the fields of Wakanda and lightning starts striking. Okay. You just hear her voice beckoning out. That would be pretty sick.
That would be pretty sick.
Yeah.
Be an interesting way to introduce the character into the MCU.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. After I'm like kind of clicking through here the characters, I think the one that I would be most interested in is probably Angel, but you know.
Yeah.
What can you do?
Well, that's the thing. Like, all of the X-Men are interesting. I don't know all of them could support like a movie, but I would love like whether it's a full-on show or just like that hour-long kind of like Werewolf by Night special kind of thing that they do. Like, ding, 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 Edward Cullen's calling.
Yeah, that's my alarm to get up in the morning.
I think, you know, give a lot of X-Men characters that hour-long deep dive special kind of treatment. Because then you can cover a lot of ground very quickly and introduce these people with enough meat on the bone, you know.
Yeah, to be clear, I also don't think that you necessarily like. I don't necessarily mean like just like them in a movie. I just meant more like they're getting introduced into the MCU and yeah. Okay, cool. Well, there's some sick art of Angel, and I'm about to get lost down this rabbit hole, so I'm going to close that tab. Sam is actually dead. He has left us for dead. Let's see. Oh, I need that. Sorry. Okay, so I think that that's basically everything that I wanted to talk about for this movie. The only thing I had left was a question, but we'll have to wait for Sam on that one. So, through line, nothing. Yeah, there's nothing really else left besides my question. Okay. Sorry, I was writing it down so I don't forget. So we have a couple things coming up next. We'll have to wait for Sam to confirm. Hi. I can't hear you now. Let me just make sure my sound's working, but I don't know how it would have stopped working. My sound is working. Perfect time for the garbage truck to show up and make beeping noises in my microphone. Okay, he's saying one moment for people who can't see his face. He's leaving and he's never coming back. I apologize for the garbage truck. I usually let Sam talk while the garbage truck comes and mute myself, but welcome back. Yep. So I don't think I had much left to say about the movie, but I was going to ask. So at the very end of the film, the lady that was like the helper for, what's his face? The guy who's like trying to distribute the cure. There's like that doctor lady that like freaks out at the end. Like I felt like her reaction was so crazy. I was just going to ask you about it because I was very confused. She's like, no, don't take him away. And she's like freaking out, you know?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to check because I don't. Let's see.
It's, I think, Kavita Rao.
Yeah, it's not ringing a bell in terms. Obviously, I remember it from the film, but like, what significance?
Okay.
Um,
Oh, she's at arcade.
Yeah, I think it is just one of those things where it's like introducing a character that is technically from the comics that was pro
Procure or
yes. I don't, why was the why did my brain malfunction to that degree where I couldn't
what? It's
remember
okay.
a four-letter word, you know?
It's okay. It happens to all of us.
You were about to say the best of us, but then you didn't want to inflate
Yeah.
my ego too much, so
Yeah. I had to deflect the opposite way.
yeah, that's fine.
Okay, cool. Well, she reacted very crazy. So I was like, well, lady, this is not. I mean, it is that serious, but also like her reaction compared to everybody else's reaction was just like jarring. Anyways, so next we have, as I was about to say, the Marvels, I believe, is what I have listed here. So I don't know if that's where you wanted to head.
Yes, because I think if I remember correctly, technically Loki season 2 came out just before the Marvels, but I would say, yeah, no, there's the Marvels.
Okay, this is the list that I have right now. I'm sure subject to change, but this is what I have. I have the Marvels, then What If season 2.
Okay.
Then I have Deadpool 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
Then Loki season 2. What If season 3. Echo, Agatha All Along. I assume we add Captain America at the end of this.
So I might change the order a little bit.
Okay.
I would say do the Marvels next.
Okay.
Then Then What If?
Okay.
Then
If you give me the same order back, I'm gonna cry.
I'm trying to think here what makes the most sense. Actually, scratch that. Scratch. Marvels, then Loki,
Then Loki season 2. Okay.
yeah. Then What If?
Okay.
Then what did you have after that?
Deadpool 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, that's fine. We can do that.
And then What If season 3.
Mm-hmm.
Then Echo. Then Agatha All Along. Then Captain America.
I would swap round What If and Echo. So Echo is first before What If.
Before
Season
season 3. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Then the rest of it's good.
Yes.
Am I missing anything? I feel like one other thing came out that I'm not thinking of.
I don't believe so.
Okay.
Last year we only had one film come out.
So we've got 10 left, 10 episodes left.
Yeah. I mean, by that time, like Thunderbolts will have come out. But then we are like up to date.
Then
And
we'll no longer have to
technically-
ask if we're caught up yet.
And technically Daredevil is coming like in less than 24 hours. So
Oh, so that'll be after Captain America.
yeah.
Daredevil, I can't even remember what it's, Born Again.
Mm-hmm.
And then you said, what was the other one? Thunderbolts?
That's
That
the
sounds made up.
next film in May.
What is this?
It's gonna be May.
Oh, that's what this is. This could go either really great or really terribly.
I'm holding out hope. It's by one of
The-
my favorite directors.
Promotional images look good, but you know. Oh, the Peepaw is going to be there.
I don't even know slightly what you mean by that.
David Harbour.
Okay.
Does that help?
Sort of, yeah. I mean, I'm there for Florence Pugh, clearly.
Clearly. What else would you be there for?
Well, you would probably also say Bucky, to be honest.
Would I? I told you
maybe.
the only way he made it to my simplest was very specifically from What If, long hair version only.
I mean, he's got slightly longer hair.
Yeah, but he had longer hair in some of the earlier films, and it was.
All right, okay, well, maybe not then. I'll shut up. Clearly, I don't know what I'm talking about.
Hey, I'm not saying that you're
No,
100% wrong.
I get it. No, I'm stupid.
Well, that was a whole other topic of conversation. No, I'm saying I doubt it, but I'm open to the idea.
Yeah. Well, I'm on board for the director at the very least. So
Who's the director on this one?
Jake Schreier.
Yep, definitely know who that is.
He did Robot and Frank, which is one of my favorite films of all time.
Oh yeah, I watched that. That doesn't mean I know who that is. Some of us didn't study film.
I didn't study film.
I feel like studying film is part of acting because you have to watch the films and be like,
not really.
And be like, look at how good their acting is.
I mean,
I also want to be a good actor. That's my understanding.
Yes. I'll leave you blissfully ignorant.
All right, guys. Well, so next week, just to be clear, we're watching the Marvels.
Mm-hmm.
And if you wanted to rank this somewhere, where do you think this would go on your list?
I don't know, man.
This would go pretty low for me. Like, not the lowest, but I would say like Man, I think I'd even take Love and Thunder over this one. At least like Love and Thunder had some silliness, I guess. I don't know.
Oh,
It's
and like
just,
interesting visuals and stuff.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty low for me as well.
Okay. Well, oh well. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. I do want to give a shout out to our patrons. We have Fabulous Brianna, Brianna's mom, Brianna's brother, Lindsay, Nikolai at Night, Brendan Myers, Marcus O'Neill, Lillian, David Hartright, Dave Harp, the Xbox Expansion Pass, Lee Navarro, Silicana, Ellery Woods Parker III, Rick Davis, and Dinglebop Bamp. Dinglebamp.
Dinglebamp. That is a fun thing to say. I don't know what
It
it means.
is.
What if
I
it's like a
don't-
slur?
What if it is? And we've just been saying it and we're like, it's so fun and silly.
You're such a dinglebamp. You know? That
Mhm.
sounds dangerous.
It does. It sounds really close to Dingleberry, I think, is the real problem.
I didn't even think of that.
Well, Sam, where can people find you and your Dingleberries?
I don't know why that made me feel so violently ill, but it did. Anywhere and everywhere. Sam Heaney Heney.
You can find me at Fabulous Brianna, FABULASCBREANNA. You can find us at Save the Game Media, most places. And we will see you in 2 weeks. Goodbye.
I'm nauseous.